And we're back here on the ETBU Coaches Show, and we are here with none other than head women's basketball coach Rusty Rainbolt. Thank you for joining us today, sir. And when I'm not behind the camera making documentaries for you guys, we're here with Kenneth the K-Rock Klein running the Coaches Show. So you guys are headed to the Sweet 16. How do you guys feel? Just kind of talk about just all the festivities from this past weekend, and you guys are headed up to Iowa, so just kind of talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's a fun week. The first thing I told them yesterday when we got to practice, got in the gym, and they were all, suited up and standing there, and I said, there's a lot of teams that are turning their stuff in right now and hugging and crying and figuring out what they're going to do next. And we get to come out and practice and be a family and still continue to do what God's called us to do and serve Him through this team right now. And so it's a lot of fun. This has been an amazing week. Even just 2 days in, yesterday was crazy, booking flights and getting hotels and trying to scout an opponent that we've never, seen, have no knowledge about. And so it's just a lot of fun. It's amazing to think there's 16 teams left, and you're 2 weeks away. And so, we have no idea what's in store for us this weekend. It'll be an amazing challenge for us because all 4 teams in this regional, 3 of them are ranked in the top 7, and then there's little low us. And so, we know where it's a long shot, and we know we're the underdogs, but that's okay. We're going to go up there and give it our best and see what happens. But it's just a fun time of year, and as you guys know, it's been just crazy to watch these girls come together, and I've loved it because you've been there to document it every step of the way. And I think that's what's been so cool is to be able to just get all the behind-the-scenes stuff that y'all have been doing and look back at it and know just their thoughts and their hearts and all that kind of stuff. And so it's just been a lot of fun.
Yeah, obviously, Coach. So talk about the 2 games. You took on Whitman. You came away victorious there. But then, once again, you had another run-in with your old friends, the Texas Dallas Comets. And this time, I don't know what happened necessarily because you were up 6 at halftime, but then all of a sudden I look and you're up 17 points. I'm thinking, what's going on over there? That can't be right. But it seemed like you had a hot spurt, I guess, to say the least, and that was ultimately the difference of that game. But just talk about kind of the first 2 rounds as far like were there kind of the nerves, even though you were already playing in a familiar court, or was it just like, yeah, we know what to expect, we know how we can handle this?
Well, it was a really cool experience. Whitman is one of the top teams in the nation, and we knew going in when I first heard that we were playing Whitman, my initial thought was, oh goodness, because that's an amazing league. George Fox, Whitman, just all those schools up in that league are really, really good. And so I knew how tough it would be. And throughout the week of preparation, initially you flip the film on, kind of like with, this week with St. Thomas. When I initially flipped the film on of Whitman, it was like, oh, goodness. You could just see their size, their athleticism. They were so well coached. And then, they were in an Elite 8 last year. And so we knew it would be a challenge. But then immediately, we just said, okay, we got to go to work. And so the more film I watched throughout the week, the more that I just knew if we played well and we did what we asked of our kids, if they did what we asked of them, it'd give us a good shot to win. And they did. They executed perfectly. They were resilient. They never gave up, and they believe they can win. That's the cool thing about this group of girls is just they're young and they're inexperienced. And, everything we do is brand new. We've never been through this. Like in St. Thomas and Whitman and Amherst and all these schools that are still playing, they've done this year after year. We haven't. So everything is new territory for us. But our kids are just young enough and almost maybe immature enough to not really realize the magnitude of this, or maybe they do and they're just that poised and that mature. I don't know, but I do know that these girls believe no matter what. They have faith that is just huge. And so, we're still on the yes thing. They had it written on their hand all week long, and they believe. And so, but Whitman was a tough test, and our kids played very well. They were big and athletic, had 2 great rebounders. The player of the league, I think her name is Cassie Poe for Whitman. She scored 1 point against us, made 1 free throw. And so anytime you can hold a league's best player to 1 point, you're doing something good. And so that was a great win. Then we turned around and did play UT Dallas again. Our kids were confident. We have a lot of respect for Dallas. We knew being at home they're going to have a great crowd. But shout out to our fans, because I think in both of those games there was no doubt who had the home court advantage. We did. Our band, our cheerleaders, our pep squad, and then just our fans were awesome. And you're right, our kids played amazing. We were up 17 or 19 late in the game, and the kids they just are playing so well. A crazy stat I didn't know. My wife was actually reading this. She's crazy into this right now, by the way. So reading this stuff, but she said that in the article that UT Dallas put out that Dallas only scored 7 baskets through the second, third, and fourth quarter total. That's crazy. You hold a team that good to 7 baskets. I mean, they scored some points, and a lot of it was off of free throws, but they only had 7 made baskets. So our kids are locked into playing defense and rebounding the ball, and then they're getting better offensively too. So, but that was just a great experience to go up there and win 2 national tournament games in that type of atmosphere and intensity.
Yes, Coach, you guys are obviously it's very impressive what you guys are doing on the court. But one of the interesting things that you said in the interview following the win over UT Dallas is that the first time around when you won a conference championship, you said you were trying to prove yourself, trying to prove where you stood as far as a head coach, and you talked about how much different it is this time around with this team. How has this changed you personally now that you've had the experience now, and what about it has changed for you?
Yeah, well, that is just this. I guess people say it's my testimony or their testimony, but that's kind of my testimony that I would say to people. I was just a country boy growing up. Played basketball through my sophomore year in high school. Loved the game. I was a football and baseball player. Went to college. I played college baseball. Played for 2 years and was never a star. I had to be the blue collar hard worker. Tried to be a good teammate the best I could, but I was never going to be a star, anything as a player. But I love competition. I love people. And I knew at a certain point that I wanted to be a college coach. And so once I got my first opportunity as a GA, I always knew I wanted to be a head coach, but I was constantly in that mode of trying to prove myself. Like, the guy that I started out working for at Trinity Christian High School, he told me, he said he had been a college coach for a long time and very successful. He said, you want to get a good job and you want to get a next good job, be a great recruiter. And he said that's the key to getting your next good job and moving up the ladder. And so that was the only bit of advice about being a college coach that I ever had. So my goal was always to go out and recruit the best players I possibly could. And so I think, kind of a crazy stat, I think through the first 6 years of me being not a head coach, an assistant college coach, I think 5 of those 6 years, our team had the newcomer of the year on it. And so it was always my thought, just go out and get the best players, prove to people I can recruit, and then I'll be able to get a job at one point. But when I got my first head coaching job at Concordia University, they had always been pretty average to below average. And I went in there just guns blazing, just work. And I wanted to prove that I could be a college coach. And I did. In 2 years, our team went from never winning a conference tournament game to winning the conference championship and playing in the national tournament at Concordia. But what I learned in that process is I was so focused on trying to prove myself that I had not been a very good dad. I had not been a very good husband. And I loved my players, but it was also a lot about, what they could do for me and what I could do for them instead of us truly honoring the Lord. And so we win a conference championship at Louisiana College on a Sunday night while I was at Concordia. We drive back. We went out to eat with the team, drive back home, back to Austin about 3 a.m., and I stand up I'd fell asleep, been asleep on the bus, stand up, and I just immediately collapsed, and my body just shut down. And I had so neglected my body, stressed, overworked, that my body just, the doctor said that, the adrenaline had stopped and my body just shut down. And so that was supposed to be the high point in a career, as a young coach, 2 years taking a team that had never been good to winning, to I didn't get to enjoy the selection show. My wife pushed me through I was in a hospital bed with my eyes closed for 48 straight hours. And my wife said, you're getting on that plane. We flew to George Fox to Newburgh, Oregon, and our team played, but I was out of it. I was, like I said, I was sick. I couldn't even stand up, couldn't walk. And it was just, it was a hard time because I knew I'd let my team down, but it was because I had gotten so out of balance that I wasn't able to be healthy enough to do it and be there for them. And so I've learned a lot. God has humbled me so much to realize like this is about Him, and it is not about me. It's not about making money. It's not about winning games. It's definitely not about accolades and championships, and all those things are great, but they truly fail in comparison to knowing the love of Jesus and the peace of Jesus. And so that's been, y'all have heard me talk about like our team this year. Our whole message to our team all year has been trying to find our identity in Christ, because I knew we had a chance to be pretty good as a team. I didn't know we could be this good, but success creates an identity, and money creates an identity, and jobs create an identity, and marriage, and all these things. And we find ourselves identifying with those things instead of with who we are in Christ. And so that's been the theme all year long. And I think that's what's been amazing is we've had all these other accolades and success, but at the center of it has truly been we're trying to know, we want these girls to know they are beautiful daughters of the King. And I had to learn that the hard way. I had to, God allowed me to be successful to bring me back down, to humble me. And so what now through this time is I've had such a joy and a peace about it. And whether we win or lose, it doesn't matter, because ultimately we know we're doing it for the Lord. But that's been my story, just to learn, like, winning or losing, I'm still a son of God. I'm still going to be, blessed and highly favored, and go about it that way, and not let winning and losing be a identifier or stimulate good or bad. So.
All right, Coach. Well, one final question I have. You're in the Sweet 16, obviously, which makes me ask this particular question. How were you like on your Sweet 16 when you at the age of 16?
Man, I can't even remember my Sweet 16. I was probably at the house on the farm, working with the animals, or riding a dirt bike or something. I can't even remember 16, to be honest with you. I will say this: I had the world's best parents, and when I turned, my dad made me and my sister a promise. He's a car dealer, owns a car dealership, and he said, if we stayed out of trouble and we didn't fall into drinking and alcohol, and our grades were great, and respect was a big thing for my dad. Like, you say yes sir, no sir, and yes ma'am, and no ma'am. You treat people with respect. That was who we are. And you do all that. When you graduate, I'll buy you a brand new vehicle. And so when I turned 16, I ended up being able to kind of trick him into, hey, instead of waiting until I graduate, can I go ahead and get that now? So shortly after that, he bought me a brand new 0 miles Dodge quad cab. It was solid red, had chrome all over it. It was awesome, man. I was just so happy, so excited. And so that's kind of what I remember about that 16 years, that brand new red truck that I got. But anyway, that's about the best I can do for a Sweet 16 story.
Thank you once again, Coach. It was great having you on, and definitely we'll be praying for you guys as you go up to Iowa to face St. Thomas. And we'll be back on the other side of this with our next head coach, so stay tuned.